DOT.
Andrew, no guy here?
I can't help it.
Guy wanted
Yeah.
Would it?
Jerry, I
Andrew
know
wanted
that I
to
know.
speak for us?
Bob, that's a different one. That's not the same.
Yeah.
I don't see him, so.
I thought it was.
We're now live streaming.
Good evening, everybody. We're supposed to have a guest speaker, but he doesn't appear to be here. He was calling me for, a couple of years ago, so when I circled back to him, I put him out there. Right?
What's that?
That's, so, Barnhart?
He died?
Yeah, just gave me that.
No.
Okay. I think there's another edition too. George Staples? Yeah, you like that?
Or the other one? Did you get that one? Steve?
He added somebody.
Oh, he was
Was
just,
it somebody else?
yeah, it was this guy.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll start off with Matt. You have anything you want to talk to the board?
No, we had our drainage committee meeting. We submitted a stormwater report for the month of May earlier today. Nothing else to report.
Okay. I just had the Boy Scout troop in here. So, yeah, it was, boy, they had a lot of questions. It was great. I just, very interested at that level. So, Ed?
Couple few things. Senior Center on the, we're working with the apparent low bidder on the gazebo. That was the biggest cost item. And so he wants to come back with some some options. So we're just waiting for him to come back with those to see where we end up dollar-wise. Historical building is out for rebid, bid opening June 16th. Historic Society County grant, still dealing with the HVAC here. And then as far as the schoolhouse goes, got a bunch of quotes in. They all came in under, well, all total, they were under the $100,000 grant. So we asked the county if the Historical Society could add projects, and they said, yep, spend all the way up to 100 grand, so they are gonna add some more projects.
Well, I think that's when we added 2 more that are on for tonight,
And there may be one more coming.
but that's the only reason we haven't sent the agreement back, right?
That's right.
We're waiting to make
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're gonna do exterior painting, interior painting, the masonry, the handicap ramp, HVAC. Forgetting anything, but anyways, that's all being done. Youth Bureau door, just waiting for the contract execution from Imperial Door. Police cameras, I haven't heard nothing back from NICEAG on the poles. Let me see, Siebert Road culvert. The board made a decision of what they want to do.
I guess you didn't hear about the grant.
No.
We may never hear about this grant. Nobody,
And nobody's, nothing.
Nothing.
Did anybody else
Not in-
get approved?
In the Albany region, they've made awards, nothing in Western New York. I don't know what the story, I don't know what the holdup is, I don't know what, all the decisions are coming out of Albany, so I can't.
There's still no estimated time on when they're going to award this.
No.
and you had said if we did get the grant, it probably wouldn't be done until next year.
Here, right, and if we don't start soon, either way, it's not gonna be done next year anyway, so.
Not going to be able to do the work.
But if we do get the grant
Then you
and we
lose.
start it, we
You lose.
lose it.
Well, you lose what you've spent before you got the grant.
And that's gonna be a nightmare if it doesn't get fixed during the winter time, trying to plow and turn trucks around and everything there. It's gonna be a safety issue backing plow trucks down both ways.
Well, we did
Sorry.
that was done last year, we were okay, because we had 2 spots to turn. It wasn't too bad, but it's much easier to go right through.
Yeah.
So if we start working on this right now and we just get through some type of a planning process,
Yeah, I mean, I was
just
at
going
the
to lose the planning money at this point.
Correct. I mean, the engineering is typically 10% of the cost of the project, so, depending on how far you got into engineering before you heard, you'd lose that, you can't get reimbursed for what you spent before you got the award.
Yeah, I think we need to do it. I mean,
I think I need to, yeah.
start design.
Yep.
Yeah. And hopefully we hear something halfway through design.
Let's see what else. The soffit work here that's being designed. The windows, they're on tonight to go out to bid. I know we're still in discussions about the grant.
From New York Forward?
Correct.
Okay. I attended the New York Forward meeting on Tuesday last week and trying to find out more information. And our portion of that for the Opera House and for the historic building was still on the agenda, but there is, again, no commitment on that at this point. I am going to, I was invited to sit down with you and a couple other people with Lynn Ruda to talk about the Opera House on the inside. The issue is going to be the outside. If we do it, then we might not get any funding because they're not going to give reimbursement. But we're only talking about the first floor, not the second floor, right?
Well, the
The
Opera House.
windows, or did you put the whole thing down?
Right, well, I've got it broken down. I've got,
Yeah.
and the way I wrote the bid is that, you know, we'll bid each item. You can get the bids and you can say, we're gonna do A, C, and F. We're not gonna do the others. That'll be the board's discretion.
Okay, so I guess if we don't, if we put it out for bid but don't do it, I think we're still eligible for it.
Correct.
But it's probably going to be just on the inside, so they want to sit down with the Opera House director and go through all that.
Then I would suggest we go out to bid with it and see where they end up and, you know, because that's gonna be a month away from now anyways, before you get the bids in.
Right,
And then
exactly.
Make a decision, okay.
Okay, and I got to bring up from that meeting, unfortunately, when I was there, I was not part of the committee, not part of the process, just sat there, waited for the public discussion section. And during the public discussion, I explained to the people there, in an attempt to help, the process of going through the town, because the Opera House is in the town hall and the historic building is ours as well, which are both leased. And at that point, I sat down, very happy, did my presentation. And then a couple minutes later, the co-chair of the board committee verbally attacked me, saying I was threatening the whole thing, that, I had no right to do this, told me to possibly swearing to sit down, and it was just ridiculous. And basically, so I left the meeting, and a few other people also left the meeting at that time, at which point the mayor, Ruda, did call me the next day and apologize. A complaint was made to this committee, and they responded that it will not happen again. But the thing of it is, it was not the way you treat a public official. Since we're talking about this, just want to bring up real quickly, there's two people sitting on the committee from the town, and I don't remember that we gave them the authority to do that. Now, it may come with Matt's one of the two, may come with his job, but there's also somebody from the Youth Bureau on there that I don't recall giving anybody permission from the town board. Did anybody else do that? Okay, because if we don't, if we give tacit approval to this person continuing because they're listed under their official title, then if we give tacit approval by not doing anything, then they're part of that, and they're making decisions that could impact the town of Lancaster. So, we got to do something with that. I would say.
What if they're on the committee as the resident, because my
Well-
understanding is that the residents on the.
Sure, absolutely, and Tom did the legal background on that, but unfortunately, they're listed in the website under their official title with the Youth Bureau, and on their little placards that are in there also as a, and were introduced in their official capacity. So personally, I don't think we should have anybody on there acting in their official capacity that hasn't been approved by this town board. So I would say that person has to act as a resident or just get off of there and not act in their official capacity. And then Matt was asked to be on there as well. I'm not sure how that works. Again, it gives the appearance that we have tacitly approved everything that the village does there, but the village really wasn't keeping us, they weren't telling us what was going on. So actually getting berated by this individual, the co-committee chair, did finally get the mayor to call me and tell me, yeah, they want to work with us on some of this stuff. But, we got to take some type of a stand there because it impacts our buildings. So whatever the majority of the board wants to do, let that person continue as a resident, hold the title, is it?
I mean, I would agree that it was not a professional discussion during that time. When I was asked to participate on that board, it was, through the intermunicipal agreement, because the village had asked me to be a part of that board because of the history that I had with developing the zoning code, the downtown map, a lot of the planning of the build-out or the future plans of the village. So again, I was asked to participate in that capacity as the building inspector to review some of these projects, because ultimately those projects are going to come across our office for any review. But that was the only reason they had asked, and
It would have been more appropriate to come through the town board to ask for people.
Which is fine.
That we want to be sitting in this committee, in my opinion, so that never happened.
But again, the meeting was an introductory meeting. It was a call for projects. My understanding is that each one of those projects that were listed that evening, I don't even think were clearly identified as to what their scope of work was. Hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to get that.
Yeah.
So that whatever's decided in September, we'll have a handful of projects plus. The grant is $4.5 million, and the state is looking for $6 to $8 million worth of projects.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it up till that point, when the guy started yelling at me, it was a good meeting up to that point. But again, I don't want to give tacit approval for people being on there without the permission of the town board, because then it looks like these are our people. We do have a say in what's going on, when in reality, we may or may not.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it's the board's pleasure, I mean, if you need me to rescind it because of a conflict of interest, I'd be happy to withdraw. But
I think
whatever your decision is, it is.
You're on it because of your professional experience. The state selected people, and you were selected because of your experience.
The state selected people?
I believe the state
Yeah.
had a committee that selected people.
With input from the village,
There was an interview process, and the names were forwarded to the state for their approval to sit on the committee.
Yeah, no trustees or council members can be on there. Or I can't be on there either.
Yeah, except for the mayor of the village is on there.
Because I guess it's because she's the point person for the grant.
Okay.
That's the only reason why she's on there.
All right.
But that was my understanding, that we can't be on there. They wanted more public input. And the understanding is they had 6 state officials on there, and then the rest are made up of people like Matt, and there's some business people on there and things of that nature. But
Yeah, again, I have no problem with that part of it, except if we don't do something, we're giving tacit approval to having somebody acting in their official capacity for the town of Lancaster on that committee, and I don't think we want to do that. If they're acting as a resident, relying on their experience or whatever, that's fine, but they should be introduced as a resident unless we want to give approval for that person to be on there. And I don't really see the need for that for somebody from the Youth Bureau. It's great that they have that experience and they can ask questions, but they didn't come through us to get any type of approval for that, so.
I agree.
well, we didn't do like I said, we didn't do the interview. It was a selection process that people put in resumes and stuff, or were asked, and they selected who they want to select, for whatever reason. I don't know. So I don't know if the town board really has a say in this. It's not.
Well, we do, because if they're acting in their official capacity, it's got to get approval of the town board according to our outside counsel. And so we got to take some type of action, either approve it or say, no, act in your, as a resident, that's fine.
Not really resident.
Okay, so then they got to lose the official title and go from there.
Can we ask this board, the state board, for us to put on somebody from the town to represent us?
It was asked during the meeting, and there didn't seem to be a positive response to that. Somebody said, why don't you have Councilman Leary on here? And I haven't heard anything back on
Well,
that.
Cindy was thrown off. She was rejected.
As a trustee.
Yes, as a trustee, because she was a trustee. So Cindy was rejected.
Then again, no problem with that as long as we don't have people acting in their official capacity for the town of Lancaster. If they want to be residents on there, except for Matt, who is the exception because he works for both. I think that's the way to go.
The last thing I've got is that the state has closed out the dog control grant. They signed off and they sent a check to the town, which I believe they've received. Check has been received.
I think Mary did.
Okay.
Diane?
No, we're good.
Just briefly, that Matt, Ed, and I have spent a fair amount of time since last meeting and the meeting before trying to revamp to some degree how we do initial concept presentations for new site plans, for new developments coming in. We are working on it. It's probably going slower than we want, but our intention is to have 1 or 2 10-minute presentations for a max of 3, but try to keep it to 1 or 2 during a work session. That way the board can be aware of things as they come in, instead of at some point down the line when the planning board wants us to know about it. And I've talked to Dave very briefly about it. I think that the liaison will be very important in bringing continuing information, updated information to the board. So that's just something we're working on, and I think that'll streamline the process. I think it'll make my office more efficient. To some degree, even though it will add a step, I think it will take some of the onus off of your office to keep everyone always apprised, if that makes sense. So that's something we're working on.
I do have update with dog control. So Elizabeth did leave, and so Jean Carn is out. We lost both our full-timers. Thanks to Chief Gummo and Officer Major. Officer Major went in, started working in there to look at processes to improve those, as well as we have help from some of the officers. Thank you to Bruce and the rec department also for stepping up and helping out at the dog control to go over and fill in some of those shifts that we have. We do have many, I mean, a lot of great candidates. When are those interviews going to be done? Because I didn't see another email that was moved.
Well, I mean, somebody canceled my interview, so.
Okay, so I will send an email out to see when we can have the interviews this week. And Councilman Leary is going to sit in for me this week since I have other obligations with work. Officer Major or Chief Gummo will also sit in, and
Chief
Supervisor,
Gummo, from what I understand, you did not want to sit in.
he didn't, if,
There were some conflicts
Right.
with the interviews where they were scheduled last week that I couldn't make it. And if there was an interview scheduled tomorrow, I have an appointment, so I wouldn't be able to make it. If they're going to be at a different time, there's a potential I will be able to assist with those.
okay. So I will email Cindy and see when we can get individuals on. Hopefully, the way we're looking at setting dog control up with these individuals that we have, we could actually put that plan in place and move forward. So, that's it.
Chief Gummo, anything from you?
I'll just note our 2 academy recruits graduated on Friday. Officers Kowalski and O'Brien, they began today doing their field training. It'll be an 18-week process getting them up to speed on physically doing the job before they're released. So probably sometime this fall they will be released. And we are still in the process of looking for new candidates to fill the 2 vacant positions we are expected to have for the August Academy.
Thank you. Bruce? Been very active.
Active and tan, right? You know, outside. So, good evening. 3 resolutions before the board tonight. One is our part-time seasonal help. We have 31 employees that we're looking for approval for. I sat in on most of the interviews for all the interviews for the new candidates, and we're starting to interview some of the existing returning candidates. So all the feedback, at least that I gathered from our staff, is a good crew for the returning, and everyone seems exceptional that's coming on board. So 31 new people. We're looking for your support from the board. 2 other resolutions are at the Brickyard. The first one was the sod. The sod is taking. We're 2 weeks into it. We picked arguably the worst time ever to lay new sod with the lack of moisture that we're encountering. But our crews have been doing great as far as the watering and everything else. All indications are it's taking. We've come up with different elaborate schemes on how to water properly. So in the future, if we are installing more sod, which we're planning to do as far as helping the soccer program, helping out reinforce our current fields, we're going to be a well-oiled machine as far as installing sod. Second phase of that is around the fall areas. So sod, picture the sod 30 feet behind home plate and everything out. We're going to hydro seed the rest of it. Our crews are leveling it. Tomorrow we got a couple truckloads of topsoil coming. We're going to level the rest of the field, and the plan is, even with our sprinkling, everything we have set up, we're going to be watering that. We're going to be hydro seeding on Friday. So that's another resolution that will be on today's agenda. Keys of the pool's open, so our crews have been cleaning. It's always a good sign that summer's coming. So I was part of that process, at least seeing it from start to finish. I have my own pool, but this pool is a little different, a little bigger. So a little bigger, a little deeper. So that was a good experience. And I sat in on one lifeguard interview, just trying to get a feel for that pool, that process, and for the whole town, all the different departments, and the recreation program. So we're also exploratory early on in the process of changing the wading pool to a splash pad. Based on our feedback and even my observations over at Meadow Lea, the splash pad and the Como Park splash pad over at Hadsell Park, just seems like those are so popular. I'm not saying the wading pool is or isn't, but we're looking at possible splash pad and exploring grants for that too over at Kisa. So that's kind of our feedback from talking to the residents. Hey, we need more splash pads, we need more fun things. And the Meadow Lea for sure is very popular during the day and every time we've been there. So. We had a water main break over on the old police station over Memorial Day weekend. So we handled that. The police reported it. Patrolman Owen reported it. Got the 911 call on a Sunday morning and addressed it. Got eyes on it within 10 minutes and ran point on that. We got through the weekend. Our options were shutting down the police or monitoring it. So with Ron Wasler and myself, we monitored the water main break. Then when Ed was back and Michelle helped us work through that process, we addressed it and we had it fixed by Tuesday afternoon. So it was a good gusher. It was 6 feet below the surface. We identified where it was and took care of that. So the water main break we took care of. I think Ed had mentioned that first time he'd seen it in the town.
For a town property, yeah.
The first time
especially out there, I mean, that's an old site.
Yeah, so for 5 weeks on a job, this is a good time, and we took care of it. So, like anything, it's good to get eyes on a project, and that's what we pride ourselves in, at least myself, as far as getting my eyes on, as soon as possible. Dog control, like Mark had mentioned, we've been helping out the rec team. Part of our plan is always especially the police department's right on our home base. We've been helping out just as a backup for cleaning, and also we're reinforcing their kennels outside. Some of the design was flawed. We're looking at pouring concrete there in the future as far as the cleanup on the gravel. New mailbox, new donation bin, and we're also getting the word out on social media for donations for the dog control and also adoption. So there's more details to follow on that. But we have flyers for all the town buildings. We're going to post those. And more or less what Chief Gummo and Officer Major, just building that partnership / working together. That's kind of what our key is. So our plan is. And another thing was the last 2 weekends. 2 weeks ago we had we hosted, as far as the town, Lancaster Baseball had a really nice tournament that they ran. Our rec staff supported it. I would say thousands of people there. 6, 8, 10,000 people easily over the weekend. So, and the Ponytails held their first tournament of the year. This past weekend, feedback's been great on the field. Feedback's been positive overall in the fields, and we're working with a lot of organizations to continue that momentum. So, any questions?
Two questions for you. The first one is the amount of people that we have working part-time. How does this year stack up to prior years? Is it the same? Is it more?
We haven't added any, Bob. Based on the guidance Michelle gave to our department, I believe we just, we're kind of following the plan that they set out. I haven't hired anything more than what we've done in the past.
Okay, and then the second question is the Brickyard, because when they're not calling you and asking you when it's going to be ready, they're calling somebody else on the board. What is the...
Still target, for everything, we're still targeting July 5th.
Okay. Thank you.
So based on the hydro seed, if that takes, I mean, we're cutting it close, 4 to 5 weeks to the sweet zone. But with this blend that they're using for the hydro seed, we could be on there at least walking and everything within 3 weeks. So the sod was the key. We're already 2 weeks into that. We're gonna have a full 5 weeks on the sod, but the hydro seed will be key to. And those are outside of really the playing area, Bob. So, and we're still getting the quote. We're trying to figure out the fixing a dugout and fencing and making sure everything else looks good there short term.
Okay, but the major sod in the outfield is.
It's a little crispy right now, but
Sure is.
but we will start moving our sprinklers out toward that way. We're going to work on that for sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
right, thanks.
Michelle, are you speaking on behalf of John?
So y'all realize John is at Ithaca at Highway School, so that is why he's not here today. We did our paving and milling, our first big section. We ended up doing Summerfield, Apple Blossom, Sugar Mill Court, Peachtree Court, Farmview, and Miller. We started on May 22nd due to a huge garage sale there the weekend before. We were able to mill all those areas in 2 days, followed by paving in sections to beat the escalation that was happening June 1st. So we saved, could be all the way up to $5 a ton. We laid over about 2,200 ton in a matter of a very short period of time. We'd like to thank the Village of Lancaster, the Village of Depew, the Town of Aurora, the Town of Newstead, the Town of Clarence, and the Town of West Seneca, as they all helped, especially during the holiday week. They lent us what we could, they could, to get the job done. Everybody worked well together. They did a very nice job overall, and also thank the crew, the Town of Lancaster Highway Department, because they stayed late or came in early just to pump the work out. We are now moving, we are in the bubblers, which are becoming more and more and more throughout the town that were never tied in or need to be tied in. We started our retention ponds with the new mower. We just started on Plum Bottom is where we started. We have it all labeled of where we want to go next. And we're, of course, doing the major brush pickup. We just finished plow damage and most of our patching. We will be doing some more streets once we review the budget and where we're at with funds. I am not sure, but we're heading more towards the north. So whatever we see that needs to be done. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to break for a couple minutes, and we'll start our meeting.
What? Oh, I don't. Saturday?
That's correct.
Saturday?
The RV
It's part of the private system. Because we mandated builders to not tie into the system and use very poor practices for connection to a public system.
Fairly certain we're well beyond the past. Yeah. I don't think that's right.
I think we're well beyond, but I think
The town mandated, wouldn't allow it
Short and sweet.
because they couldn't get to it.
but it's a short form, well, it's a long form because it's the town practice.
All list of memory here.
You haven't had one like
I
that?
didn't turn line up, so one more turn. I don't know when the rest of the system were originally installed.
Let me double check this. Where we are on
It's kind of weird to see. It's weird to see Miami when it's in
that get handed.
the city of Miami.
They're part of the drainage system.
Isn't there a time period where you have to, after a public hearing, to vote on it?
Very, very good.
Let the building,
I can double check that.
Yeah, I just didn't want that
there
to
would be no cost to that.
expire. But it doesn't.
That was frustrating.
With your brother?
I'm understanding of that. Yep, very understanding.
Call the meeting to order. And would you please do roll call?
Councilmember Burkhardt.
Here.
Councilmember Dickman.
Here.
Councilmember Leary.
Here.
Councilmember Mazer.
Here.
Supervisor Rufino.
Here. Councilmember Dickman, would you do the pledge and invocation?
Sure. Then I just have a quick little quote here. That's from Henry Ford. It says, "If everybody is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself."
Welcome to our Monday, June 5th meeting. Tonight we have 23 pre-filed resolutions, 1 suspended resolution, no public hearings, 3 executive sessions, which 1 will be under proposed pending or current litigation, and 2 will be personnel issues. We will close in the memory of 7 people: former Chief of Depew Police, James A. Brennan, John J. Barbero Jr., Donald Kraft, Roger Williard, Stephen Kuhn, Gordon Eder, and Joseph R. Barnhart. At this point, we'll call people to the podium if they'd like to speak on any of the 23 pre-filed and 1 suspended resolution. Please come up here, give your name and address, so town clerk can notify that. Anybody want to speak on the resolutions? Second time? Third time? Okay, I'll close that portion of the meeting. Official reports? Anybody?
Nope, thank you.
Anybody? Nothing?
This planning board is this week, 7 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay. It was great having the Memorial Day parades. I attended both Village of Lancaster and the Village of Depew. And just, you know, it's a solemn memory of the loved ones that we lost and their families, what they have to go through. But there was a story in Depew that was given about a lady that was born and she lost her dad. She was 9 months old. And she's now up in age, but she never met her father. And it was such a touching story to hear. And the story went like this. Basically, it was the ship that was hit. I think there's something like 750 people perished in this unfortunate accident. But her dad was one of the people surviving in the water, and he kept going back out, bringing people in. I don't know how many people he brought in, but then one time he did not return. So he went out, basically could have saved himself, but he saved others, and he lost his life. So it was just a touching story to hear. So we will go on to our resolutions. I'd like to move resolution number 1. This resolved the minutes of the regular meeting of the town board held May 15, 2023, being and hereby approved. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhardt.
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Leary.
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer.
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino.
Yes, I'd like to move resolution number 2. This is down the following audit claims, being and hereby ordered paid from the respective accounts as per abstract to be filed in the office of the town clerk by the supervisor's office. It's check run number 0605-2023. Total amount hereby authorized to be paid, $788,428.72. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhardt.
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Leary.
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer.
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino.
Yes, Councilmember Mason, would you do number 3, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor, Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution, move for its adoption. Be it resolved that the following building permit applications be and hereby reaffirmed. Now, there's a long list of them. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that the building permit applications here encoded CSW for conditional sidewalk waiver be and are hereby reaffirmed with a waiver of the town ordinance required for sidewalks. However, the waiver is granted upon the express condition that the town of Lancaster, at any future date, reserves the right to order sidewalk installation at the expense of the property.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Dickman, would you present number 4, please?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board. I offer Resolution 4 for adoption. Whereas Bernard J. Colber, 9471, Hunting Valley Road, Clarence, has applied to the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster for a permit for private improvements upon real property in the town within 9 Lancaster Parkway. And whereas the Town Engineer of the Town of Lancaster is certified on the following permit application, that he has reviewed the improvement plans and permit application for the installation of the private improvements requested, and that they conform to the ordinances of the Town of Lancaster. Now therefore be it resolved that the private improvement permit application number 850 for 9 Lancaster Parkway, Lancaster, New York, which is a permit for private improvements for 75-foot curb cut, 15,000 square feet of pavement, 190 feet of storm pipe and 2 catch basins, and 40 feet of 1-inch water line.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Burkhart, would you present number 5, please?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board. I am offering up Resolution Number 5 for adoption, whereas it is essential to public safety that the Town of Lancaster continue its participation in the coordinated effort to reduce alcohol-related traffic injuries and fatalities. And whereas the County of Erie has tendered an application to the Town of Lancaster for participation in said coordinated effort for the 2023 calendar year. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the Town of Lancaster the 2023 Police and Court Contract 2023 Stop DWI Agreement with the County of Erie for participation in funding of alcohol-related traffic safety law enforcement activities under the 2023 Stop DWI Grant Program. And be it further resolved that the Chief of Police, William Gummo, is authorized to execute the 2023 Erie County Stop DWI Appendix A of the Police and Court Contract 2023 Stop DWI Agreement.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Dickman, would you present number 6, please?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Board. I move Resolution 6 for adoption. Whereas Brandon Williams, 6375 Genesee Street, Lancaster, New York, has applied for a dumping permit for the property situated at 6375 Genesee Street in the town of Lancaster. Whereas the application was referred to the building inspector and town engineer for review and recommended. Whereas the building inspector and town engineer completed the review of the application, and by letter dated May 24th, 2023, the building inspector made a formal favorable recommendation to the town board. Now therefore be it resolved that Brandon Williams, 6375 Genesee Street, is hereby authorized to dump and dispose of materials outside permitted sanitary landfills within the town of Lancaster, namely on the premise owned by the applicant situated at 6375 Genesee Street, said dumping to be in strict conformance with the application of the petitioner as filed in the Office of Town Clerk, and be it further resolved that this permit is conditioned in accordance with the recommendations of the town engineer and building inspector. There are 9 conditions on here. And be it further resolved that no building permit for the reconstruction of any structure on the SBL premise upon which the dumping permit is issued shall be approved by the town code enforcement officer until such time as code enforcement officer certifies in writing to the town board that the conditions enumerated in this resolution have been fully complied with. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Chapter 287-8 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, the permit authorization granted herein expires 1 year from the date of this resolution.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Mazer, would you present number 7, please?
Yes. Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, offer the following resolution, move for its adoption. Whereas by letter dated May 23rd, 2023, Bruce Stutz of the Town of Lancaster, crew chief, has requested the Town Board approve the purchase of 9,000 square feet of Kentucky bluegrass sod to be installed around home plate, first base, and third base at the baseball field in Westwood Park and Brickyard Baseball Field. And whereas by letter dated May 23rd, 2023, Bruce Stutz has recommended that the Town of Lancaster authorize an expenditure from the Batavia Turf, 6465 Transfer Road, Elba, New York, 14058, the amount not to exceed $3,060 per its quote dated May 23rd, 2023, and whereas the expense will be paid for with funds from account 37.700.400 record filing fees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster is hereby approves the expenditure of funds as requested by Bruce Stutz, Part Crew Chief, to Batavia Turf, 6465 Transfer Road, Elba, New York, in the amount not to exceed $3,060 per its quote dated May 23, 2023, for Kentucky Bluegrass sod, and to be paid for with funds allocated in the account recreation filing fees.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Leary, would you present resolution number 8, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor and honorable town board members, I move the following resolution for adoption. Whereas the town of Lancaster is the owner of the Lancaster District School Number 6, Little Red Schoolhouse, located at 3703 Bowen Road, and maintains the facility as part of an operations and maintenance agreement with the Lancaster, New York Historical Society. And whereas the Little Red Schoolhouse is in need of a new roof and handicap ramp, masonry repair work, and replacement of the current heating cooling system to make this historic landmark safer and more enjoyable for the public. And whereas the town of Lancaster for the school district number 6 has been awarded a $100,000 grant through Erie County Cultural Capital Grant Program located in the Rath Building. Whereas the town board has requested quotes for the restoration work required at the Little Red Schoolhouse. And whereas all quotes were received, opened, and reviewed on May 9th, 2023 and May 25th, 2023, respectively. And whereas William Shutt Associates, the town of Lancaster's engineering consultant, by letters dated May 19th, 2023 and May 25th, 2023, respectively, from Edward Schiller, PE, Director of Municipal Projects, has recommended that the contracts be awarded as following. Number 1, the roof to Bezroy Construction, Genesee Street in Lancaster, award amount not to exceed $17,150. The ADA entrance ramp to Schuster Construction, LLC, located on Gould Avenue in Depew, award amount not to exceed $23,427. Masonry repair awarded to Highland Masonry and Restoration Incorporated, Rancier Drive, West Seneca, New York, award amount not to exceed $19,500. The HVAC to Vistola Heating and Cooling, LLC, Abbott Road, Orchard Park, New York, award not to exceed $14,585. Interior painting to KOCZ Custom Painting, 12 Veterans Drive, Lancaster, New York, award not to exceed $4,410. And the exterior washing and painting to the same Kaz Custom Painting, 12 Veterans Drive, award not to exceed $5,120. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lancaster hereby awards contracts to each of the above listed entities for amounts not to exceed the award amount in conformance with the specifications on file in the office of William Shutt Associates at 37 Central Avenue in Lancaster, New York. Be it further resolved that the cost of the project will be funded by a $100,000 grant through the Erie County Cultural Capital Grant Program, and the balance will be paid with the funds from the town's 2023 other capital outlay line item number 001-7410-0260. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute these contracts on behalf of the town of Lancaster and to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution pending the receipt and approval of all required documents and insurance certificates by the town attorney.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes,
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes, yeah, these improvements were long overdue.
absolutely.
I'd like to move resolution number 9. And this resolves that the town board of the town of Lancaster hereby authorizes the town supervisor to execute on behalf of the town of Lancaster the consulting services agreement for professional services presented between the town of Lancaster and Lawley LLC for services as above described for the annual amount not to exceed $49,000 for the period of May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024, with future extensions and COLA adjustments as described in the agreement, subject to approval of the town board. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Dickman, would you present number 10 and 11, please?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Board. I offer resolutions 10 and 11. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster has held a public hearing upon the application of Mary Beth Basil of Joe Basil Chevrolet Incorporated for a special use permit to operate a facility which installs accessories on automobiles serviced through Joe Basil dealerships on the premise located at 5071 Transit Road in the Town of Lancaster, and the board issued such special use permit on July 3rd, 2017. This special use permit is subject to renewal upon application by the property owner, and whereas Megan Schiffler, controller for Joe Basil Chevrolet, has requested the town board renew the special use permit for an additional 2-year period, and whereas the code enforcement officer has recommended the approval of the special use permit renewal per his letter dated May 24, 2023, with the original conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Lancaster does grant a special use permit renewal to Joe Basil Chevrolet Incorporated to operate a facility installing accessories and automobiles serviced through Joe Basil dealerships on the premise of 5071 Transit Road in the Town of Lancaster upon the terms and conditions set forth in the zoning ordinance for the period beginning January 3rd, 2023 and ending July 2nd, 2025, and that the applicant will continue in compliance with the conditions set forth of the Code of the Town of Lancaster and do any additional conditions listed herein as long as the applicant continues to engage in the automobile occupation listed above on the premise, namely, and that includes the same 5 stipulations.
May I have a second?
Second.
The question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes.
Number 11, whereas the town board of the Town of Lancaster has held a public hearing upon the application of Mary Beth Basil, 5123 Transit LLC, to operate an automobile glass and accessory installation facility on the premise of 5067 Transit Road, Lancaster, New York, and the board issued the permit on July 3rd, 2017. Whereas per its terms and conditions, the special use is up for renewal. And whereas by letter dated May 18th, 2023, Megan Schiffler, controller for Joe Basil Chevy Incorporated, has requested that the town board renew the special use permit for a 2-year term. Whereas the code enforcement officer has recommended the renewal of the special use permit per his letter dated May 24th, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Lancaster does hereby grant the special use permit to Joe Basil Chevrolet Incorporated to operate an auto glass and accessory installation facility on the premise of 5067 Transit in the Town of Lancaster upon terms and conditions set forth in the zoning ordinance for the period of July 3rd, 2023 through July 2nd, 2025, and that the applicant will continue in compliance with the conditions set forth of the Code of the Town of Lancaster and any additional conditions listed herein that the applicant continues to engage in the automotive occupation listed on the premise, namely, and this has the same.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 12. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of Town of Lancaster hereby accepts the grant award of $27,000 sponsored by Erie County Legislator Frank Todaro. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor hereby authorized to execute documents as may be required to effectuate receipt of said award. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question. On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes, and this grant will be used towards our youth bureau building. Okay, number 13 and 14, Councilmember Mazur, would you move those, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution before its adoption. Whereas the Erie County Department of Environment and Planning has issued a notice of funding availability in the form of grant funding, and whereas Ed Schiller, the town's consulting engineer, has recommended that in light of the recent discussions and interest, the town of Lancaster apply for a grant award with the town of Lancaster matching contribution of 30%, which contribution shall be not exceed $10,000 to pay for an open space park study in the south part of the town. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Lancaster hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute grant application documents for the grant above described. And be it further resolved that the town of Lancaster commits to a matching contribution of 30%, which contribution shall not exceed $10,000 to pay for an open space park study in the south part of town.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes.
Resolution number 14, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas the Town of Lancaster and the Lancaster Town Band incorporated an agreement detailing their respective obligations relative to the Lancaster Town Band Summer Concert Series, and whereas the agreement has recently expired and both parties seek to enter a successor agreement, now therefore it be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby authorizes the Town Supervisor to execute on behalf of the Town of Lancaster the agreement between the Town of Lancaster and the Lancaster Town Band Incorporated, 21 Hedge Lane, Lancaster, New York, for the band's summer concert series for 2023, 24, and 25 calendar years for an annual cost of $9,000, with funds available from band concerts section of the town general fund.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Leary, would you move resolution number 15, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor and honorable town board members, I move the following resolution for adoption. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed memorandums of agreement which have been reached between the negotiating teams representing the town of Lancaster and the collective bargaining unit of the Civil Service Employees Association, Incorporated, Local 1000, AFS-CME, the AFL-CIO, Town of Lancaster White Collar Unit, 815-6763-01, Civil Service Employees, and whereas the Civil Service Employees membership has heretofore ratified the memorandum of agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby adopts and ratifies the memorandums of agreement as negotiated with the before-mentioned Civil Service Employees, which will be incorporated into a 4-year contract between the Town of Lancaster and the Civil Service Employees Association Incorporated, Local 1000, AFS-CME, AFL-CIO, Town of Lancaster White Collar Unit, Local 815-6763-01, and the Town Board further authorizes the Supervisor of the Town of Lancaster execute the full contract when prepared.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
I'd just like to thank the members of the Lancaster White Collar Unit throughout these, negotiations for their efforts. Greatly appreciated. I'd like to point out Mark Burkhart, who assisted me with most of these negotiations, our town attorney, Tom Fowler, and then also the rest, of course, of the town board members for their involvement.
On the roll?
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
I'm going to vote against it only because they're using ARPA funds to up some of the raises. And our auditors, basically the last statement, when federal aid is no longer available, may add some budgetary pressure in the future. I just can't support that, so no. Councilmember Burkhart, number 16, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board. I am offering Resolution 16 for adoption. Whereas Edward Schiller of William Shutt Associates, the Town of Lancaster Consulting Engineers, by letter dated May 26, 2023, has requested that the Town Board authorize an invitation to bid for window replacements for the Opera House and Town Hall, 21 Central Avenue, Lancaster, New York, 14086, and Historic Museum, 40 Clark Street, Lancaster, New York, 14086, within the Town of Lancaster. And whereas the Town Board has given due review and consideration to the request for window replacements for the Opera House, the Town Hall, and Historic Museum, and deems it in the public interest to invite public bids in conformance with General Municipal Law, Section 103 of the State of New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby invites public bids for the Opera House, Town Hall, and Historic Museum. Said bids are to be in conformance with the plans and specifications which are available at the office of William Shutt Associates, 37 Central Avenue, Lancaster, New York, 14086,
and to be received in the office of the town clerk, 21 Central Avenue, Lancaster, New York, no later than 10 a.m. local time on June 29th, 2023, and open thereafter.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Mazur, would you move resolution number 17?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas Lucas James, doing business as Lucas James Construction as designee for Cornerstone Plaza, owner of 5827 Broadway, Lancaster, New York, has submitted an application for a special use permit to operate a restaurant, namely Tim Hortons, on the premises located at 5827 Broadway, Lancaster, New York, in accordance with provisions of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 18B1A of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, whereas Section 478 of the zoning chapter of the Town Code, the Town of Lancaster requires that the Town Board conduct a public hearing before the issuance of a special use permit for use as proposed. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Chapter 400 zoning, Article 14 Administration and Enforcement, Section 78 Special Use Permits of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, public hearing is on the proposed special use permit for Lucas James, doing business as Lucas James Construction as designee for Cornerstone Plaza, owner of 5827 Broadway, Lancaster, New York, to operate a Tim Hortons coffee shop on the premises will be held at Lancaster Town Hall, 21 Central Avenue, on the 20th day of June, 2023, 7:05 p.m. local time, and the notice of the time and place of such hearing be published in the Lancaster Bee, a newspaper of general circulation in the town, and be posted on the town bulletin board, and that a copy of such notice of hearing be referred to the Erie County Department of Planning pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law, which notice shall be in the form attached hereto and made a part hereof.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 18. Now therefore be it resolved that the following individual hereby appointed to the following part-time temporary seasonal position in the Highway Department for a period not to exceed 5 months, and that this being a part-time position provides no health insurance, sick days, vacations, or other fringe benefits not specifically mandated for part-time temporary employees. It's Ryan Lund, labor, $15 per hour. Be it further resolved, the supervisor of the town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Mazur, would you move resolution number 19, please?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution, move for its adoption. Whereas letter dated by May 30th, 2023, Bruce Stutz, the Town of Lancaster Park Crew Chief, has requested the Town Board approve the purchase of hydro seed to be spread over the topsoil inside the Brickyard Baseball Field at Westwood Park. And whereas letter dated May 30th, 2023, Bruce Stutz has recommended the Town of Lancaster authorize said expenditure from Monaco Enterprises of Western New York Incorporated, located at 7040 South Avenue Road, Hamburg, New York, in an amount not to exceed $3,675 per its quote dated May 17, 2023, and whereas this expense will be paid for with funds from account 37.700.400 record filing fees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby approves the expenditure of funds requested by Bruce Stutz, the Town of Lancaster Park Crew Chief, to Monaco Enterprises, Western New York, located at 7040 South Avenue Road, Hamburg, New York, in the amount not to exceed $3,675 per its quote dated May 17, 2023, for hydro seed, and to be paid for with funds allocated in account 37.700.400 recreation filing fees.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 20. Now therefore be it resolved that the following individuals are hereby appointed to the following part-time temporary seasonal positions in the Youth Bureau for a period not to exceed 5 months, and these being part-time positions provide no health insurance, sick days, vacations, or other fringe benefits not specifically mandated for part-time temporary employees. There are 6 tutors, ranges from $16 an hour to $19.50 an hour. And be it further resolved, the supervisor of the town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 21, and this is what Parks Crew Chief Stutz was alluding to. Now therefore be it resolved, the following individuals are hereby appointed to the following part-time temporary seasonal positions in the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department for a period not to exceed 5 months, and that these be in part-time positions, provide no health insurance, sick days, vacations, or other fringe benefits not specifically mandated for part-time employees. Again, there's numerous employees here, from recreation attendants to instructors, lifeguards are on here, laborers. Be it further resolved, the supervisor of the town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Mazer, would you move resolution number 22, please?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution, move for its adoption. Whereas on August 10th, 2021, 4781 Transfer Road Incorporated submitted an application for a rezone of property located at 4781 Transfer Road, Lancaster, from general commercial to multifamily residential mixed use in order to construct a 3-story mixed-use building with residential, retail, and commercial applications, including a separate bank structure, for which a site plan approval application was submitted concurrently. And whereas in accordance with Section 239M of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York of the Erie County Department of Planning, reviewed such application for a rezone and made no objection with respect thereto. Whereas on June 6, 2022, the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster, upon recommendation of the Town of Lancaster Planning Board, after thorough consideration, issued a negative declaration following review pursuant to criteria for determining significance set forth in SEQR. And whereas on March 28, 2023, Christopher Cardillo and Anthony Pandolfi of Carmina Wood Design as designee for 4781 Transfer Road Incorporated submitted a revised site plan for the proposed construction of a mixed-use development involving the redevelopment of 12,010 square feet of retail, 20 apartment units, and a separate building with a bank and drive-through at 4781 Transfer Road, Lancaster, New York. And whereas on April 19th, 2023, the Town of Lancaster Planning Board recommended approval of the revised site plan above described, and whereas on May 3rd, 2023, the Town of Lancaster Planning Board recommended approval of the rezone of the parcel commonly known as 4781 Transfer Road, Lancaster, New York. Now therefore it be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby approves the revised site plan submitted by Christopher Cardillo and Anthony Pandolfi of Carmina Wood Design as designee for 4781 Transfer Road Incorporated, dated March 23, 2023, for the proposed construction of a mixed-use development involving the redevelopment of 12,010 square feet of retail, 20 apartment units, and a separate building with a bank and drive-through at 4781 Transfer Road, Lancaster, New York, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the building and the plaza will be repositioned. 2, the height of the building will be reduced from 45 to 35 feet with a flat roof. 3, the building will be moved to the north and the bank will remain in the same location. And 4, a right out only, no left turn sign will be installed at the north driveway. And now therefore be resolved that the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the Town of Lancaster is hereby amended and changed so that the real property hereinafter described as rezoned from general commercial to multifamily residential mixed use for the purposes of and conditioned upon the proposed construction as above described and herein approved. And attached is the new deed.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 23, whereas the Town of Lancaster, after thorough consideration of the various aspects of the problem and review of available data, has hereby determined that certain work as described in its New York State Drinking Water Infrastructure Grant Program application and attachments to address the repair and maintenance of the Cemetery Road Waterline Project, herein called the project, is desirable in the public interest and is required in order to implement the project and address said compliance requirements. And whereas the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizes state assistance to municipalities for drinking water quality improvement projects by means of a contract and the town of Lancaster deems it to be in the public interest and benefit under this law to enter into a contract therewith. Now therefore be it resolved that Supervisor Ronald Rufino or his representative or successor in office is the representative authorized to act on behalf of the Lancaster Town Board in all matters related to state assistance under the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and/or any applicable state grant provisions, that the supervisor or his representative is also authorized to make an application in the amount of $2,618,525, which the town is requiring 60% of the total project cost in grant funding $1,571,115. That the town of Lancaster Town Board agrees to fund its portion of the cost of the project not to exceed 40% of the total project cost, $1,047,410, by way of general obligation bond or serial of bond anticipation notes, and that funds will be made available to initiate the project efforts within 12 months of written approval of its application by the New York State Department of Health and New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Authority. And 4, the one certified copy of this resolution be prepared and sent to Albany office of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. And 5, this resolution takes effect immediately. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Councilmember Mazur?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules for this 20...
We have a motion to suspend the rules. May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, Honorable Town Board, after the
You got to do the roll first, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Town Board, I offer the following resolution and move forward to adoption. Whereas Jason Havens, P.E., on behalf of Frank Trabuskowitz, prepared and submitted a site plan dated January 2022, which was received February 3rd, 2022, which revised site plans received September 16, 2022, and October 19, 2022, and February 27, 2023, for the construction of a 126 by 60 apartment building of 10 residential units with built-in garage spaces and 112 by 24 6-unit ancillary garage building at 5680 Broadway in the town of Lancaster, Erie County. And whereas the town, acting as lead agency, completed the environmental review on April 19, 2023, in conformance with seeker regulations, and on May 15, 2023, a negative declaration was issued by the town board of the town of Lancaster, whereas the revised site plan for the project was recommended for approval by the town planning board at its April 19, 2023 meeting. Now therefore it be resolved, the town board of the town of Lancaster hereby approves the revised site plan prepared and submitted by Jason Havens, P.E., for the construction of a 126 by 60 apartment building of 10 residential units with built-in garage spaces and one 112 by 24 6-unit ancillary garage building 5680 Broadway in the town of Lancaster with the following conditions. Number 1, contractor to provide an as-built survey to the building department prior to any certificates of compliance or occupancy being issued. And that's it.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes. Okay. We're going to move on to our communications. .285 all the way through 293 are received and filed. 294 and 95 are resolution tonight. 296 for resolution. 297 through 301 received and filed. 302 through 306, resolution tonight. 307 is for resolution. 308 is received and filed. 309 and 310 and 311 are planning committee. 312 and 13 are received and filed. 314 is resolution tonight. 315 and 16 are for resolution. 317 is received and filed. 318 is resolution tonight. 319 received and filed. 320 and 21 are resolution tonight. 322 is for resolution. 323 through 325 received and filed. So at this point, we come to the point of the meeting where people can address the town board on anything they'd like. It's, again, just a comment. You have a 5-minute time limit. If you would raise your hand and then come up to the podium and give your name and address so the town clerk can identify.
Carmen Ciccarelli, 47 Stony Brook, CSEA Vice President. I'd like to thank Mr. Larry, Mr. Burkhart, Mr. Fowler for taking your time out of your busy schedule to negotiate with us. Mr. Dickman, Mr. Mazur for going along and voting yes. We appreciate it. It was a fair contract. I think we all did a good job, both sides. Mr. Ruffino, I'm sorry you voted no. As a budget director, maybe you should have did a better budget.
Next.
Greg Soika, 19 Spruceland Terrace. Supervisor Ruffino, could you tell me a little bit about the
This
Youth
is comment
Bureau?
period, not question and answers.
The Youth Bureau tutors, I heard you state, are paid $16 to $19 an hour, and they're part-time and they don't get any benefits. And I was wondering, why is everybody leaving the dog control, and what are they paid?
This is comment period, so you could comment.
Well, I just don't understand being a fiscal conservative if you're going to pay Youth Bureau tutors, and what are their requirements? Are they certified teachers? Are they high school kids with grades?
You can call the Youth Bureau tomorrow and talk to the executive director, and he'll give you everything you want to know.
I'm just asking as a fiscal conservative to figure out $16 to $19 an hour for tutors at the Youth Bureau. And dog control, it seems that no one wants to work there and everyone's resigning. So are they underpaid? Because it seems to me that dog control is much more difficult of a job than paying students $16 to $19 an hour to tutor at the Youth Bureau. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Yes.
I've been on this podium before, but I'll introduce myself again. I'm Paula Adamy. I've lived in Lancaster now almost 40 years. I've raised 2 daughters. I now have 5 grandchildren. We all live in this town. My late husband was real active at the Ponytails out at Westwood, so in 2015 I put the new sign up because you could never see the old one that was put in 1996 to say that this is Walden Ponds. Okay. Moving forward, in 2001, when Lindsay graduated, she was a softball player on the team. And at the same time, for her senior year, the school district decided to put in the field house, so that took out the softball and the baseball diamonds. So all of Lindsay's home games were at Walden Ponds. My husband was on the board, and it just worked out to be fine. My contention is, and I was so glad to hear Bruce talk tonight, why doesn't our school and the town work together? I have 3 grandsons that need Brickyard to play ball on. I am so glad that Bruce is getting things moving forward because we are in our 2nd year that my grandsons don't have a home field. And it's very, very sad and disheartening to go to other towns and see their parks and see multiple fields that these kids can play on at the 90 feet or whatever it is as far as the distance, you know, for pitching. But why can't we ever use our high school fields? Why do we always have to go to another town, pay money when we represent Lancaster? My 2 grandsons play on the Lancaster Grizzlies teams. We went to Myrtle Beach last year wearing Lancaster on our backs, representing this town, but yet this is the 2nd year we don't have fields to play on. My 2 grandsons' teams are playing against each other on June 28th, and we rented the field house there, not the field house, but the concession building, to have a big family party with both teams. Now my daughter's going to have to get the money back, because if the diamonds aren't ready to be playing on, we're going to have to go someplace else that has lights, have to pay, and it's just getting very, very disheartening that we can't take care of these kids. We have 1 field, it's Kiza. And there's more than just my 2 kids' teams playing on these big fields, but we have no place to go. Why can't we work with the school district and get the town and the school to work together?
Bruce, everything on that? I mean, I know you've been talking to the school, but again, that's more a question for the school board.
I wish I could have been at both meetings, because theirs is tonight also, but I started here.
No, I agree with as far as the working relationship with the town and school districts. It's improvement, it's obviously just at the early stages of, since I've taken over.
Right. My ex-son-in-law, who is the coach of one of the teams, does the grounds for the Williamsville School District. My grandson that plays on that team gets to use Williamsville High School's field for their home teams.
That's a question for the school district.
Well, I know, but I want to start here because you have a working relationship.
We've
I know
talked to the
he's been-
school district in the past.
He's been communicating with all the leagues, whether football, baseball, softball, soccer. He's been out there with all the clubs and the school. So I would say, let's give Bruce some time to iron some things out. Maybe we can get use of their fields.
I mean, I'd like to have it done in my lifetime, number one.
It's not a town board.
And my grandson's.
We can't tell the school board to allow baseball to be.
But when they needed a field for the high school, Walden Ponds was given.
So, again,
Right, but it's
Right?
for the kids. You gotta look at the school board themselves, okay? This town decided to put the same people back in that for years, it doesn't seem like we worked with. Bruce is gonna try to work with them. We cannot do anything. It's a totally separate entity than us. We can just throw olive branches out to them and see what we can get, but it's really up to them to allow those kids to play there. And there's nothing we can do about it.
So it was up
except
to
try
the-
to open up.
So school went to
communications.
Walden Ponds, and Walden Ponds,
No,
how
no,
did that
no,
work?
but we're not gonna penalize the kids
Right.
for what the board is telling the rest of everyone else. If we can't play on the school grounds, we're not gonna tell them that they can't go to our park and play. That's not how we operate.
Right. So
So-
this is more of a school thing that I have to keep fighting for?
Yes.
Because I'm just like about had it up to here.
Okay, you should take
There may
you
be
should
a-
take the same argument to a school board meeting.
You
And that's where it should be.
and you may have an issue this year because they're putting in the new turf field back there, and I don't know how much it's going to be open. The grounds, the school grounds are gonna be open, in the
Well,
back.
my grandson also played modified, so that was
But,
that was a shit show.
But once,
Say it,
once the
honestly.
school closes down for the year for activities, I don't know how much, you're gonna have to ask the school district, how much they're gonna allow people back there because of all the construction equipment that's back there going on.
I mean, if they have insurance to pay, we represent this town. I just don't understand why.
I 100% agree with you.
It's just very frustrating, and we never had the problem with the girls in Walden Ponds and playing there. You know what I'm saying? So now I have 3 grandsons, and I'd like to see them to be able to have their games. We have to keep canceling, but we go and pay to play someplace else, and we pay for it. The town doesn't pay for it, but yet we represent this town. It's just, I just wish everybody could just work together
agree.
and take care of this problem.
And just so you know, the state is identical in their professional programs. They're a separate entity. They decide who they compact state with for education. And Congress, Senate, any assembly can't tell them what to do. And that's at state level.
Well, I'm going to keep fighting for them because, like I say, I live for my children, my grandchildren's sports, and you know, when you can't see them getting on the field to play, we play out at Dawson.
I don't think it's a bad thing if you and some representatives went to that meeting and voiced your opinion. It may open up some eyes.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
You're welcome.
Yes, sir?
Thanks, Supervisor. Council members. Just a little side note, what this young lady was talking about. When I was on the Lancaster Little League board, we were actually, the older boys, of course, because they were actually playing on Lancaster High School fields. Just a side note, back to my time. I'd like to strictly talk about the last Tuesday's event at the Lancaster, New York Forward. I believe the rest of the board heard about the incident. Okay, I will not bring up the language and what was said to Mr. Leary, but I was there, of course. But that, his name was Mr. Paul Brown, I found out later, because I do take a proactive measure. I did write the people that are headed that, and they gave me excuse. You know, this gentleman did apologize, which was futile. It was just futile because everybody's
what happened was just, I've never seen anything like it, even, all the years I've been in this body, I've never seen, Mr. Leary was just explaining. My point is, he was just explaining what the town, the supervisor, and the council members do. And this gentleman just lashed out on him. But that's moving towards what I found profound was nobody on, even though by the way, Paul Nosfus Jr., I live in the village of Lancaster, I apologize. But what I really found profound was that there was no sitting town board member on this Lancaster, New York Forward committee or the board itself. The gentleman explained, which I already read, that needless to say, they don't want any so-called politicians on the board. But then my question was to myself, then why is Mayor Ruda there? So that was an open, it's not even the excuse, I don't know. But leading up to that, I'd like to know something. This was on the village Facebook site and the mayor's site. Mark your calendar. This is New York, Lancaster, New York Forward. Mark your calendar, June 15th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. There was a gentleman that got up, the executive, I guess you call him board member for the Opera House. There's confusion over on that side, going that side, with the mayor and I believe the trustees. Is this place that I'm standing in called the Opera House, or is it called the Lancaster Town Hall?
This is Lancaster Town Hall.
So why is this meeting, it says the Opera House?
Because funding for that, you're not allowed to put it into public buildings. And it's being used as but you're allowed to enhance the Opera House. That's the only reason why we qualify to be on that grant.
So why?
Same thing with the historical building.
I'm still confused, since I was a little boy living down the street here, I always even called it Town Hall, I never called
I
it.
think they're doing that so it qualifies for the monies.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burkhart, how much time do I have left?
You had like a minute.
Oh.
Anybody else?
Should I come back?
Ding, ding.
I was soft today.
Hi, Myra Bucklew, Bucklaew, 6275 Broadway. I was here for my first time to address the board on March 20th at your meeting, and at that time I asked for some help with a lateral ditch that I'd been for over a year trying to work with the highway department to get a resolution on. That was 2.5 months ago, so my first comment is, in 2.5 months, I made 2 phone calls. Both were routed to voicemail, and neither phone call was returned. So we're now over a year, and I can't even get a phone call back, a courtesy call back to tell me what's going on with the ditch. Now, in just a few minutes before the meeting, I met Michelle and talked to her, and I understand that they had come out and walked the property, and I wish they had communicated with me, because I would have made sure I was there for that. Because I don't think they understand the volume of water we get in our backyard, which drains from both sides of Broadway, which now includes that new big parking lot for the Holy Mother of Rosary Church that's across the road. We get a tremendous amount of water, and I would have liked to have been there, and I'd like some help in just getting a resolution to talk to them about this lateral ditch and to figure out where we need to go from here. Now, I will tell you that we've lived in the house for over 30 years. The town last cleaned it in June of 2007. My parents owned the house for 50 years before that. The town has always cleaned that ditch. When we had our septic sand filter installed, the backyard was dry. The field next to us was dry. We didn't have that much water. The ditch was open. It drained properly back to Little Cayuga. Over the years since 2007, the ditch has silted up, is not draining properly. It's obvious on Google Maps when you look at the property, you can see where you can see the brown spots where the reeds are growing now because it's not draining properly. There's obvious brown spots where instead of coming through this culvert and coming down this ditch that's visible on Google Earth, it's now coming around the side, it's running way down our property, it's finding the lowest spot, coming through to our sand filter system. Now I've tried to berm up around my pump on my sand filter system. We've tried to use that pipe to drain the water back to Cayuga Creek, and all it does is silt up our pipe, and I've had some expensive repairs on that pipe now to make sure the pipe is open and flowing. So number one, I wouldn't be wasting your time tonight if in 2.5 months, one of my 2 phone calls had been answered with a status, and I consider that it seems like somebody in the town ought to be able to call a resident back and give me a status. And 2, if they're going to come out and walk the property, I'd like an opportunity to explain to them it's dry now, they can't see any water. I'd like to show them my pictures of how everything's under a foot of water and where exactly the water flows. So if there's any help that the town can give me, number one, at least somebody to call me back and give me a status, and number 2, to meet with somebody out there.
Michelle, Matt?
Yeah. John Schneider.
Yeah. Michelle, come up here, please.
The interesting part is Michelle grew 2 doors down from us.
So it was what, maybe a month ago, we did knock on your door. We did walk your property. We even talked to the neighbor next door, the yellow house. I don't know their name, but anyway, we talked with him, and we walked your entire property. We walked the ditch line. The problem is that the ditch line all the way down is higher than your property. So the water, it's supposed to drain going east.
The water is supposed to drain south to Little Cayuga Creek.
Right.
It comes through that culvert.
You're
but it's
correct.
not doing that.
Right, because over the years, things have changed, maybe by some of the modifications you spoke about with your septic and that. And the whole brush line,
We're downstream from that.
the whole brush line between you and your neighbor where that ditch is, was full of grass clippings, brush clippings.
I think those are coming under the road through that big culvert.
And that's the other thing, that culvert is state-owned, that is not town.
Right.
That's a state highway, and the state has different regulations
And
also.
the state sent me 2 great big trucks and 4 employees, including the drainage supervisor, Linda, who came out and reviewed the culvert, looked at the ditch. They said, well, you know what, we're going to grade it under the guardrail to make sure that that flows properly. But the lateral ditch is the town's responsibility. It's always been cleaned out by the town.
As far as our records go back, it was only cleared out a partial way in 2007. And correct, Ed, it is not a town-owned ditch,
Not on the ditch map.
so it's considered private property. And for us to go in there and dredge a ditch, the water isn't going to go to the ditch because the ditch is higher than your property.
Well, the water's coming from the other side of the street's going to go in the ditch.
But that's the culvert, and that is owned by the state. The state has their own rules, town has their rules.
See, this shouldn't be wasting your time. This should be something where I can meet with somebody from the highway department and walk them out there and show, because I've got 80 years of history where the town has cleaned this ditch. It's a big ditch that they put in to drain this culvert across Broadway. And I haven't had an opportunity to talk to somebody at my property and show them the ditch, show them how the water flows. I've got pictures of a foot of water in my backyard. I've had all kinds of things I've tried to do to remediate this since this ditch is filled up. And I'll tell you that the health department would not have approved our sand filter system it was gonna be underwater all the time. This is something that happens on a cycle, you know, every 15 years or so, this ditch fills up and it needs to be cleaned out. And the town has always cleaned this ditch out because it's draining a culvert that comes under Broadway. So I don't know how to resolve this or how to get somebody to come out and talk to me. It's now, I started calling in May of 22, it's now June of 23, that's 14 months. And I can't get anybody from the town to come out and talk to me.
We did come out, we did try to call you, and we even knocked on your door.
I got no phone messages, and I'd be happy to show anybody who wants to see my phone log history. And I'm sorry if one day I wasn't there when you knocked, but we're spending a lot of time at Roswell. And if we know you're coming, I'll make other arrangements to have somebody take my husband down. And I will meet you there.
We could go back, but like I say, your property's higher, lower than the ditch. The culvert isn't even ours, it's the state.
Right, I know
And
the
we can't,
culvert's not yours.
like, clean
So,
the
okay,
state culvert.
Let's hold off here.
So-
So you're agreeing that you'll go down and make it?
We could go back again.
Okay.
Can you, yeah, set up a time with the lady and have, meet with them?
Then we'll do it.
Yeah, I've been to the town board meetings twice in my life. The town has always cleaned this ditch, and I don't understand why it's so hard to get somebody just to come out and talk to me reasonably about what we're seeing, what the issue is. And if it's not on the town map, that's not my fault, because the town has always maintained that ditch, and I've got 80 years of history.
I thought, I was under the understanding also that one of our crew chiefs did get back to you. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he said he spoke directly.
I'm perfectly willing to turn my phone history over to people. I try not to.
No problem, we will come out and relook at it.
Yeah, 5
Again.
minutes, it's
And
been
Ed,
up.
maybe you
but I
could come
wanted
with
to-
us on the elevation.
Michelle, when you're going, please let me know. I'll be there. Thank you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? You've talked already.
No, it's about the ditch. I grew up on the area street between Shorts and Ransom, and back in the day, Virgil Hall put a ditch behind my parents' house and all our property. They might have put ditches back there because I think it's adjacent to hers. But the highway did do behind my parents' house, my brother's houses, my sister's.
Is it recorded, though?
That's what we don't know, but it was Virgil Paul. I used to bring him cookies. I was a little kid, cookies and coffee to the mailbox.
Was he supposed to do that? So, okay.
To answer that.
Thanks. Anybody else like to speak? Second? Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Scott Nermy. I'm one of the co-owners of Lancaster Motorplex. I'm here to answer any questions any of you may have. We employ roughly 60 part-time people at the Speedway. We have many events for children. We had a lady come in 2 days ago, wants to bring 200 kids to the track. John Casey is bringing 48 kids this weekend to the track. We're hosting a go-kart session for youths that are interested. We try to give to as many people as we can. At the end of the year last year, we gave a donation to the Trinity Food Pantry and many others, but not a lot. We're doing what we can do. And we're just trying to maintain the place, cleaning it up. As many of you may know, if went by it. It's looking better than it ever has. So if we have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the complaints we've been getting are noise complaints, and obviously now the Speedway operates probably more than it has in the past. Have you guys looked at mitigating any of the noise and gotten a cost on doing that, or plan on doing anything about it?
We're 1 year into the Speedway, purchasing it from Gordon Rieger. Gordon's owned it for approximately 30 years, and he's leased it to everyone, and they've let it deteriorate. We don't take a penny from it. We're putting everything we make back into it right now, trying to bring it back up to where it should be. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't consider something like that in the future, but right now we just don't have the money. And 1 year in, you can find a bank that'll lend us the money. We'll be glad to try to make it happen.
Okay, my understanding is there was going to be some type of arrangement done with the former people who were leasing.
Yeah.
And then they were cut out of the process of purchasing or whatever happened. I don't
Well, yeah,
know the
they
details
couldn't
to
pay their
that.
lease and they got booted out.
Yeah. So basically, the biggest complaint we had is the noise. So if we give you a special use permit and somewhere in there, you're going to, if you come upon the money, be able to do something? Have you researched anything on that at this point?
Well, I checked into it and it was over $100,000 to put up the wall that we're talking about.
Did somebody give you a bid? It's over 100,000? Because the last
I'm
time
a
it
general
came up was
contractor.
like-
I looked at it. I called the people, that Gary Costello gave me the actual part number of the wall.
Uh-huh.
I'm an emergency contractor for the county also, and I checked it out. And it's well over $100,000 to put that wall up.
So what's your resolution to the people who are hearing all the noise and coming from the Speedway? I mean,
Well-
again, it's asking for a small portion, I believe, of the area, some kind of a sound barrier in there.
Like I said, we're there, we're a year. We're struggling. We're trying to upkeep everything that's there that's deteriorated for the last 30 years.
I understand.
I'm not going to stand here and lie to you. I'm not going to tell
Well,
you
I
we're going to do
appreciate that.
something where we're not going to do. As the previous leasee told you. I'm not the leasee. I bought the property.
So your plan is to do nothing about it?
For now, we just can't do it. We don't have the money. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to tell you people I'm going to do something and not do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, honesty's the best policy.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Anything else, sir?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Everybody else? I'm going to ask to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session?
May I have a second?
Second.
On the roll, please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Just a reminder, thank you for attending tonight. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, June 20th. The notice has been put out already on that. Thank you. Thank you.
This Thursday?